Have you ever caught yourself staring at the ceiling at night, suddenly playing out an entire conversation in your head that never actually happened? Maybe you imagined meeting someone important and saying the perfect line, or replaying an awkward moment and rewriting it so it ends differently. In your mind, the room is clear, the words are smooth, and everything makes sense. But then reality snaps back in. You're just lying there, staring at the fan spinning slowly above you. A lot of people assume this habit means you're overthinking too much or wasting time inside your head. Maybe you've even told yourself that. Why do I keep imagining fake scenarios? It can feel strange, almost like your brain is secretly running its own movie studio without asking permission. But here's the interesting part most people don't realize. Your brain isn't doing something random. It's actually doing something deeply human. Your mind, in many ways, is a simulation machine. Psychologists have noticed for years that humans constantly imagine possible futures, alternate conversations, and hypothetical situations. Your brain is trying to prepare, predict, and protect you at the same time. Think about it like this. Before our ancestors walked into a dangerous environment, their brains would quietly run mental rehearsals. What if there's danger there? What would I do? How should I react? That ability helped people survive. Today, the danger isn't a wild animal in the bushes. It's a meeting, a relationship, an awkward social moment, or a decision that could change your life. So when you imagine fake scenarios, your brain might actually be practicing reality. And honestly, you've probably noticed how detailed these scenarios can get. It's not just quick thoughts. Sometimes it's a full storyline. You imagine the setting, the tone of voice, even the reactions of other people. It's almost cinematic. One moment you're planning how a conversation might go. The next moment you're imagining an argument you hope never happens. And somehow it all feels real enough to trigger emotions. You might feel proud, or nervous, or embarrassed about something that technically hasn't even happened. That's because your brain doesn't fully distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real emotional rehearsal. Neuroscience studies using brain scans have shown that when people imagine social situations, many of the same brain regions activate as when those situations actually occur. In other words, your mind is practicing emotional reality before it arrives, which is both amazing and sometimes exhausting. Let me give you a simple, everyday example. Imagine you have to talk to someone you like. Before the conversation happens, your brain starts writing scripts. Maybe in one version, everything goes perfectly. You're confident, funny, relaxed. In another version, things go awkwardly. You say something weird. The silence stretches too long. Your brain is basically running different what-if scenarios like a test drive. Why would it do that? Because uncertainty makes the human brain uncomfortable. We are wired to predict outcomes. When the future is unclear, your mind fills in the gaps with imagination. That's not weakness, that's cognitive problem solving. But here's where it gets more interesting. People who frequently imagine fake scenarios often have a very active inner world. Their minds are creative, reflective, and emotionally aware. It's the same mental ability that allows writers to create stories, entrepreneurs to imagine possibilities, and problem solvers to mentally map situations before they happen. In fact, research on something called mental simulation shows that imagining future events can improve planning, emotional preparation, and decision-making. Athletes do this all the time. They visualize winning, performing perfectly, executing moves before they even step onto the field. Your brain is basically doing a version of that, just applied to everyday life. But there's another layer to this that most people don't talk about. Sometimes fake scenarios aren't about the future. They're about the past, or about emotions that never got closure. Maybe you've replayed an argument in your head where you finally say what you wish you had said. Or you imagine confronting someone who hurt you. Or you picture a moment where people finally understand you the way you want to be understood. Those scenarios can feel surprisingly emotional, right?
That's because your mind is trying to process unfinished experiences. Psychologists often describe this as your brain attempting to complete emotional loops. When something meaningful happens, especially something awkward, painful, or unresolved, your mind keeps working on it in the background, like a computer that refuses to close a tab. And sometimes imagination becomes the only place where your brain feels safe enough to explore those feelings. Now here's the twist most people don't expect. Imagining fake scenarios can also be connected to empathy. When you mentally simulate conversations, reactions, and emotions, you're essentially stepping into different perspectives. Your brain is trying to understand how others might respond, how situations could unfold, and what different outcomes might feel like. It's like emotional forecasting. People who do this a lot often care deeply about how interactions go. They're not just thinking about themselves, they're thinking about the dynamics between people. The problem is, when that ability goes into overdrive, it can start creating stress instead of clarity. You might start imagining worst-case scenarios that never happen. Your brain becomes a storyteller, but sometimes it writes dramatic stories. Ever noticed how the imagined scenario feels more intense than reality? That's because the brain has a negativity bias. It pays attention to potential threats or embarrassing outcomes than calm, normal ones. Thousands of years ago, this bias helped humans survive. If you imagined the worst and prepared for it, you had a better chance of surviving. But in modern life, it can turn into overthinking. And that's the delicate balance people who imagine scenarios often live with. On one side, you have creativity, emotional intelligence, and mental rehearsal. On the other, there's rumination, when the same scenes loop over and over without resolution. Think of it like your brain running a movie. When the movie helps you prepare, learn, or understand yourself, it's helpful. But when the movie gets stuck on repeat, that's when it becomes draining. What's fascinating is that many psychologists believe this habit says something powerful about how your mind works. It often means your brain is very engaged with the future. It wants to anticipate, to plan, to protect you from mistakes. It wants control in a world that doesn't always give clear answers. And honestly, that's very human. If you think about it, every major decision in life begins as a scenario in someone's mind. Moving to a new place, starting a relationship, changing careers. Before any of those things happen, people imagine them first. They picture outcomes. They test possibilities in their head. Imagination is the rehearsal stage of reality. But the key difference between helpful imagination and exhausting overthinking is awareness. When you notice your brain creating scenarios, instead of fighting it, sometimes it helps to get curious about it. What is your mind trying to prepare you for? What emotion is it trying to understand? What outcome is it hoping to avoid or hoping to create? Often, the scenario itself is just a signal, a clue about something that matters to you. Maybe you imagine conversations because connection is important to you. Maybe you replay past moments because growth matters to you. Maybe you imagine future successes because a part of you believes something better is possible. Your mind is not randomly wondering, it's searching. There's also a comforting truth here that people rarely hear. The ability to imagine scenarios means your brain is flexible. It can step outside the present moment and explore possibilities. That's one of the core features of human intelligence. Without it, creativity, planning, empathy, storytelling, and even innovation would struggle to exist. So the next time you catch yourself drifting into one of those fake scenarios, instead of immediately judging yourself, pause for a second. Notice what your brain is building. Sometimes it's anxiety, yes, but sometimes it's also hope, preparation, or emotional healing quietly happening behind the scenes. And the goal isn't to completely stop imagining. That would be like asking the ocean to stop making waves. The real goal is learning when to step out of the movie and return to the present moment. Because here's the ironic thing about people who imagine scenarios a lot. They often have minds capable of incredible insight and creativity. The same imagination that creates imaginary conversations can also create ideas, solutions, and perspectives that others might miss. Your brain is powerful. It just sometimes needs direction. So if this is something you do, imagining stories, conversations, futures that haven't happened yet, you're definitely not alone. In fact, you're participating in one of the most fascinating features of the human mind, the ability to mentally travel through possibilities. And maybe the real question isn't, why do I imagine fake scenarios? Maybe the better question is, what is my mind trying to show me about what I care about? That shift in perspective can change everything. If this felt strangely relatable, I'd actually love to know what kind of scenarios your brain tends to create. Future conversations, past rewrites, or completely imagined stories. Let me know in the comments.